Om Sahna Bhavatu Sahno Bhanaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahe Tejasvina Vaditam Ma Vidvishavahe. Om Shanti, 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 Shanti. I didn't bring the book. So, it's okay. Somebody is running to get the book. So, that was deliberate. So, before we ended the session, you put up your hands. You had a question. So, we will devote a little bit of time to this now.
Hi, thank you. I might have to have a little help formulating the question first, so please bear with me.
You can sit down, please.
Okay.
I get nervous when somebody sits down.
So I'm very new to reading the Upanishads and any of the Puranas.
What is it?
Oh, I'm sorry if I'm not clear. I'm very new to reading anything in the Upanishads or in the Puranas, so please bear with me if my question isn't quite right. Anybody hear me? Oh, okay, sorry. So my question is, in the Upanishads, there's Brahma and there's talk of him, and then what happens that in the Puranas, suddenly he is not to be worshipped and not at all seen in the same way, and I don't understand that.
So what is the question? Like?
But the concept, I suppose the way he's spoken about in the Upanishads.
Okay. I think I got it. Let me look at it. It's like this. In the Vedic literature, and later on, in the extensions called the Puranas, there is a distinction between the word Brahma and the Brahman. It's not the same. When the word Brahma is used, it means a creating deity that creates the universe. We can say manifests, but creates the universe. And his four phases, Chaturmukha, which means four directions, north, south, east, and west. So Brahma is the creator. And the Brahman, whenever mentioned, is the supreme being who neither creates nor destroys. From the point of view of Brahman, the world was never created, and therefore no question of destruction. Anyway, let's do this. Now when you see Brahma, then is a deity that is given the function of creating. Therefore, it's a trinity. Brahma, the Puranas, Vishnu, and Maheshwara, which is Shiva. Why? Because the three functions of creation, preservation, and destruction. When you say destruction, it means regeneration, because if the old remains forever, there is nothing new to come about. So, regeneration, the old has to be destroyed before the new comes. This is Maheshwara. So this trinity, the Vedic trinity as they call it, is different from the Supreme Brahman. Now when they say Supreme Brahman, the Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwar, all of them, all the three deities, like the story of Agni and Vayu and Indra that we spoke of in the Upanishad, all these deities derive their power from the absolute being. And that absolute being is the Supreme Brahman. It's called a Brahman, not Brahma. That is the differentiation. So, when you're in the level of creation, preservation, and destruction, which is normally so, then there is Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwar. When you have touched the essence of being, there is no creation at all. In the Advaita Vedanta of Shankaracharya, please understand, you can leave the microphone now. You can put it. Please understand, this is meant for all also. It's a good thing that she started the question key. Now, the Vedas are not different from the Upanishads. Upanishads are the last part of the Vedas which describe and explain the Mahavakyas that appear in the rest of the Vedas. And the 4 Mahavakyas, Mahavakya means great utterances, are Tat Tvamasi, you are that. I am Atma Brahma, my Atman is Brahman. Mahavakya number 3. Prajnanam Brahma, that supreme Brahman is Prajnanam, that means conscious and effulgent. And Aham Brahmasmi, I am that Brahman. Now these are the Mahavakyas, 4 Mahavakyas, the great utterances of the Vedas, which include, of course, the Upanishads. Now the Upanishad parts are meant to explain the Mahavakyas, what they mean, what do they mean, why is it said this way. This is the whole ancient teaching. Now, each of these Mahavakyas and each of these Upanishadic teachings have been interpreted by important teachers from ancient times, of which the most ancient that we know of, although there may be greater before teachers who were interpreting the Vedas and the Upanishads, the one who is very popular and known and who is probably the earliest we know of is Shankara. Now please don't mistake or identify him with any other Shankara or any of the Shankaracharyas or so on. Adi, so he's called Adi Shankara, which means the first Shankara. His full name was Shankar Bhagavad Pad. Since you asked me, I'm going a little bit elaborate on this. Then you'll get some idea what. Shankar Bhagavad Pad, which means his guru was Bhagavad Pada. And his Bhagavad Pada's guru was Gaudapada. Now Gaudapada is supposed to have written the first Vedantic interpretation ever known, ever available to us, on the Mandokya Upanishad, commentary on the Mandokya Upanishad, which consists of only 12 verses. Gaudapada is supposed to have sat in Badrinath and written the. After that, Gaudapada, Govindapada was his disciple. He is not so well known, except that he is the guru of Adi Shankara. Now, Adi Shankaracharya wrote the earliest commentaries on the Upanishads, especially the principal Upanishads, the 11 Upanishads, and the very tough literature called the Brahma Sutras, and of course the Bhagavad Gita, and many other texts, including the Saundarya Lahari. So, while we know of him as the most famous, in his commentaries he refers to some earlier commentators and says that this is what they said, but this is what I say. So there were other commentators, not so well known. Now, Adi Shankara's system of thought or interpretation of the Vedas and the Upanishads is called Advaita Vedanta. Now, Advaita Vedanta means monism, total monism, which means there is only one Brahman. The key word in Advaita Vedanta is Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. There is only the Brahman and everything else is Mithya. Does not exist. It's an illusion. Now, difficult to digest, of course, for us human beings. Now, the next commentator who modified it a bit was Ramanujacharya. And his interpretation, his teaching of Vedanta is called Vishishta Advaita, which means Advaita with a little modification. And then came a very important teacher after that called Madhva. Now, Madhvacharya interpreted it in a completely dualistic terms. He called it Dvaita. These are the major three commentators and major schools of thought in Indian philosophy, Vedantic philosophy. If you say Indian philosophy, the canvas is larger, but Vedanta philosophy. Apart from them, there were small commentators like Vallabhacharya, Nimbarka, and so on. Now, let's look at Advaita. The first, Adi Shankara's Advaita Vedanta. Practical purposes, it's very difficult to understand this, but as a statement, it is very simple. Shankara believed that there is only the Brahman, the supreme absolute reality, formless, shapeless, and so on and so forth. And what we call the Jagat, this world which is moving, Jagatyan, does not exist. It's an illusion of the mind. So to ask us Advaita Vedantin, why was the world created and all would be a wrong question, because the world was never created for them. Little extreme, of course, views. We are sitting here in the created world and asking a created being a question. Does this world say, no, this world does not exist. Why? There is only the Brahman. Jagat Mithya. And they give examples to prove that it is so. See, they say that this world exists and I live in it and I am so and so. All these are illusions created by the mind. Who created the mind? We don't know. They're illusions created by the mind. And the example given by Shankara in his Advaita Vedanta is, it's like walking in the dark and mistaking a rope for a snake. When somebody brings a light and says, oh, this is a rope, it's not a snake. The snake never existed. It is a rope that looked like a snake. This is how they describe the world. So what is the light? Light of wisdom. When it dawns, then there is no snake. There's only the rope. Or the other example they give, which is taken from Buddhist sources, from the Madhyamika, where Nagarjuna explains the theory of emptiness. Everything is empty. The other example that Shankara uses, which of course has been borrowed from Nagarjuna, is that if you hold a torch, in the olden days there was no torch, they used to light some fire and make a torch out and rotate it. If you look at it for some time, you think there is a circle of fire going. When you stop, there is no circle, there is only the torch. In the same way, according to him, this universe is conjured up by the mind as the torch is in motion, Jagatyam. And when it stops, there is no universe, it's gone. There is no creation, there is no Brahma, there is no Vishnu, nothing. This is Shankara's Shuddha Advaita. Now, Ramanujacharya's period, the Advaita had become so superficial. And everybody started saying this world is an illusion. Shankara would have said it, somebody, but not easy for everybody to say that. When you are the same person eating, drinking, sleeping, getting angry, being happy, unhappy, how to say that this world is an illusion, there is only the Brahman. So that time, another teacher, whenever things are necessary, different teachers come. Came Ramanujacharya. Ramanujacharya introduced the theory called Vishishtadvaita. Vishishtadvaita means there is only one supreme being, but the world also exists in the way that human beings also exist. Each soul of a human being is like a cell of the human body. the body is Narayana. Instead of Brahman, he called it Srimad Narayan. And that Narayan is made up of a collection of souls, which are Jivas. Now, the Jivas have their own independent existence like the cells of the body. But when they work together, they are Narayana. So, while it is Advaita, there is only one, but it's with a little differentiation, right? For 2000 years, this is what our people were doing. Everybody was inventing weapons and so on. And technology, this is what they exploring the mind. And then, now, all of them have given examples and descriptions which are unbeatable. Ramanuja said that water is water everywhere. In the pond, in our water body, in the river, in the sea, it's all water. You can't say it's not water. Now, this little bowl that you keep on your dining table filled with water is also water. You cannot say it's not water. Ramanuja said, but in this little bowl that you have on your dining table, you cannot float a ship. You can do it only in the river or in the ocean. Although, qualitatively, both are the same, water. In this you cannot float a ship, in that you can. He said, that is the Brahman, Narayana, and this is the Jiva, the human. But same. So, Vishishta Advaita. Your question triggered this whole thing, okay? Then came Madhva, who said this cannot be. Yes, the Jiva exists, the Supreme Being exists. He preferred to call the Brahman. Ramanuja called him Sriman Narayana. Madhva called it Krishna. All the other movements that have come, including Krishna consciousness, have their roots in Madhva, Madhvacharya's philosophy. He said, to say that this human being, limited human being, with limited capacities, who is born and who grows and who gets disease and who dies, and who eats and pees and shits, to be Brahman is terrible. It's not Brahman. How can it be? It's also limited. So Brahman is Krishna, who is eternally free, and you are bounded. So you cannot be that. Then what is moksha according to Madhva? When your mind becomes absolutely clean and has no bad thoughts, no intentions, no evil thoughts, not disturbed, when it becomes completely clean, it reflects the glory of the Lord. That's all that can happen. According to him, that is moksha. In fact, he doesn't call it moksha. He calls it Bhagavad Darsana. So these are the three major streams of Vedantic thought. Now, being India, many people sat down and created many subsects from these. So we have hundreds and thousands going around. And these are the main three streams. Now, if you say this to an Advaita Vedantin, now please understand all the mathas of Shankaracharyas, they all follow Advaita of Shankara. So for them to say that this deity exists, this Jiva, there is no Jiva, there is only the Brahman. So what about the Jiva? It's an appearance on the mind. So where did the mind come from? No answer. So these are the three. But what I want to stress, one point, all the different streams of thought, all the interpretations of the Upanishads, one thing is clear. Everybody agrees that the mind of the human being has to be purified, that sadhana has to be done to get it clear, that all, whatever philosophy you follow, you need to clarify and clean your mind, and therefore sadhana is essential. Sadhana may be yogic, it may be kirtan bhajan, it might be philosophical thought, but the mind has to be made tranquil and clear and pure. When this happens, the only difference is, when this happens, Shankara says, then there is only Brahman, you are gone. Ramanuja says, yes, there is only Narayana, but still you exist as a dependent on Narayana. And Madhva says, when this happens, you reflect the glory of the Lord and realize how small you are. But that the mind has to be cleared and purified, everybody agrees. There is no disagreement on that. The processes may be different, but there is no disagreement on that. You don't have to study all this. I'm just saying because people get confused about what is all this. And because from the point of view of Advaita Vedanta, which depends solely on the Upanishads, nothing else, which accepts only the Upanishads as Shruti, Vedas and the Upanishads. According to them, the rest is all built up. It's one of the earliest streams of philosophy that has come to us. Now, but it's interesting that some of the greatest Advaita Vedantics were also great devotees of the Lord. They realized that that's also part of this whole stream. It's not separate. See, the Indian psyche is a little bit different, because if you say this is one view and that is one view, normally in Western philosophy you separate it and you say this is different, that is different. The Indian stream of thought somehow says this is different, that is different, but they come from the same source and they come back to the same. You see, this is a theme that is recurring in all study of Hindu philosophy. Nothing is black and white, they accept many gray areas in between, if you want. Now, the philosophy of Shankara, which is Advaita, when normally people say in India Vedanta, they mean Advaita, Shankara. Very few people are thinking of somebody else. Now, I want to give you some examples. Ramana Maharshi was not a traditional sannyasin from the Dashanami order. He was just Venkatramana, who became shortened to Ramana. His name. He did not take sannyas from the Shankara Mutt. He did not wear saffron robes. And he found what has to be found in Vedanta, according to Vedanta, by himself, they say, by figuring out what is my true essence. And he did not prescribe any course of study for anyone, nothing. He only said, find out who you are, which of course is the question asked in the Upanishad. But he did not study the Upanishads, right? And yet, afterwards, when people sat near him, great scholars came to him, and they read out the Upanishads. He said, stop, this is exactly what happened to me. Which means it can also be found independently, which the traditionals do not agree. The traditionalists. That's the only problem. I'm not saying problem, that's the way it is. He used to, this is what I experienced. He had not read any, he didn't go through this Prasthanatayas. So I'm saying that it is possible for a human being to discover this directly, perhaps, if the mind is clear. Because before the Upanishads came into being, how did it happen? Somebody got it originally. There was no Upanishad. Then what they said came into the Upanishad. And believe me, the Upanishads were never written till quite late. They were by rote. Somebody taught and chanted and the other picked it up. Writing never came till very, very late. And the same Ramana Maharshi, when somebody read devotional texts like the Shiva Purana and so on, suddenly used to shed tears of joy. So where is the connection between devotion and wisdom? I think they are both one. They're all one in some way. In pure devotion, a devotee does not exist, does not accept that he exists. Everything, there is only the Lord. Now there is one part in the 12th chapter where the question that Arjuna, this is also Upanishad, please. Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita Upanishads of Brahma Vidya. We are not moving out of the Upanishad. In the 12th chapter, Arjuna asks Krishna a very important question. He says, some say that the supreme truth is the formless absolute who cannot even be thought of or described. Some say that the Supreme Being can be worshipped in a form like you are sitting before me, I can worship you. What is your opinion on this? Which is better? So the whole of the 12th chapter is Krishna's discussion on this. And he says to Arjuna, listen, the ancient rishis worshipped the Supreme Being as the eternal, almost unpalpable, unconditioned being, which is great. However, we human beings are name and form oriented. In Vedantic language, nama rupa oriented, name and form. Like if I know your name, I know your form. And if I know your form, I know what your name is. So we live with name and form. And therefore, it's not so easy for most people to look at that eternal being without name and form as the Supreme Brahman. It's not so easy. So it's better for most people to start with name and form. And so on, discussion. Then he says, well, that may be true. You can worship him with form or without form like the rishis did. But then let's continue a little bit what Krishna says after that. He says in the Gita, in the 12th chapter, while it is true that the Supreme Being can be worshipped with form or without form, it doesn't matter. That's how the modus operandi is not important. But I would say a great bhakta or a great devotee or a great yogi needs to have some qualities. If these qualities exist in a being, that is more important than the modus operandi of worship. How you worship, in what way you worship. Certain qualities have to be developed in the yogi or a devotee. In the 12th chapter, the distinction between yogi and devotee kind of gets all merged up. In some places he says, Yaha bhakta same priya, that bhakta is dear to me. So, what are the three qualities? One, samnyam indraya gramam, one who has control over his sense organs. It doesn't matter how you worship, with or without form, but qualities, attributes, one who has control over his sensory organs, which means the mind, not allowing the senses to run away with the mind, or rather the mind allows the senses to operate when necessary and when not. One quality. Second quality is sarvatra samabuddhaya. When the mind, under all circumstances, good or bad, remains tranquil. Sarvatra sama buddhaya, the buddhi remains sama, quiet, under all circumstances. Second quality. And the third, sarva bhuta hite rata, which has the welfare of all living beings in his heart. If these three qualities exist, no matter with form or without form, I would call such a person a great devotee or a great. So, people like to follow their own systems. So we can't say anything about that. So there are so many streams, but it's interesting that many people in India do not know that there are so many streams in Vedanta. That is very sad, because we don't study anything. Many years ago I went to Harvard, and we were talking to the philosophy department. There were many Indians, there were also many professors who were from Harvard, who were Americans or, I don't know, white. So I kept talking, Vedanta. So in the front row, a professor stood up and said, "Sir, 1 minute, when you say Vedanta, which Vedanta are you talking about? Advaita, Vishishta Advaita, Dvaita, Nimbarka, Vallabha?" I said, "Stop." I said, "I never expected this from you." Nobody has asked me in India. Amazing. When the man dedicated himself to understand this, to study it, without that he wouldn't even know this question, how to ask. So, to sum up, there is one reality which can be approached in many ways. Purifying of the mind is essential. You don't have to worry about how you look at it and how you worship. Looking is important, worshipping is important, cleaning up the mind is important. This is sadhana. And then discover for yourself what it is. When you discover it, you will tend to agree with everybody. Why the difference is because when somebody is heading a monastery that believes in a particular order, they cannot afford to say something else, right? Even if they personally think, they cannot say it in public. Yes.
My question might be slightly long. I don't even know if it's a question. But just relating from our first session in the morning where we heard the story about the Yaksha and then Indra, who was not able to see the Yaksha but only he was able to see Uma. I would translate that the Yaksha to be Shiva and Uma definitely to be Shakti.
Don't translate.
Okay.
That's
Sorry.
not what the Upanishads say. Huh.
Okay. Interpret in my own mind, right? And now in this session, since we are learning so much about Advaita Vedanta, and while you have been explaining, we are also seeing that there are certain shortcomings where it comes to explaining the concepts. I feel the concept of Shiva and Shakti is simpler and more direct to understand.
For some people.
Okay. So my question was then, why aren't more people following the Shiva?
Because they're simpler for others to understand.
All right.
This is the traditional fight between the Shaivites and the Vaishnavites.
Okay. Sorry for that. Yeah.
The Shaivites will have it this way. Roughly. And the Vaishnavites. So they say, who is superior? Oh, Narayana is superior. No, Shiva is superior. It's nothing like that. It's how you look at it, how you interpret it, how you look. The main thing is that the quality of the three qualities described by Krishna in the Gita on Bhakti Yoga, they have to be there. Most important. If they are there, it doesn't matter how. Now I must tell you this, interesting. I was wandering with Babaji, Maheshwarnath Babaji, not Baba. And we were halting in Haridwar. Now Haridwar is a place full of sadhus of all kinds. Apparently for 2 days there have been a big discussion, almost a fight, between two group of sadhus. One are the Vaishnavas, they are called the Babajis. The Vaishnava sadhus, Bairagis, they are called Babajis. They have here, Chandan here, Chandan here, Chandan here, and many of them have matted hair. They have that bhajan thing in their hand and so on, Kamandali. They will never wear Rudraksh because it is Shiva's. Only Tulsi Malas. And these Bairagis and their head Babaji, have been having a big fight. I mean, not fight, but discussion, heated discussions. Almost sometimes it comes to blows of the Shaivite order. The Shaivite order people came from a particular section of Shaiv, not the Lingayites, but they're called Kapalikas. They are the people who put ashes this way, who also have matted hair sometimes, who carry a chumta in their hands, and who are usually wilder looking guys, and so on. So, and they were Rudraksh, which is eye of Shiva, Rudraksha. So this probably was going on for 2 days. Then they got wind that Babaji had camped in Haridwar. So both sides respected him. So they came to him saying that please sort this out for us, this discussion. Going on, one is quoting the Shiva Purana, the other is quoting the Vishnu Purana, and so on. So Babaji said, "Aap pehle baithiye." They all sat down. Then he said, "Okay, so have any of you seen Shiva or Vishnu?" We looked at each other. The chief Babaji looked at everybody and he said, no. Then he went to the other side. He asked the Ghori Baba who sat there, "Have you seen Shiva?" No. He said, "Yes, I've seen in Varanasi." I said, "Have you seen Shiva?" No. Okay. You haven't seen, right. So how do you worship? They said, "We do Pada Puja." Vaishnava said, "We worship the Padas of Mahavishnu as presented in Gaya." And the other guy said, "We worship Padukas of Shiva as worshipped in Kailasha." Okay. You worship, right? Yes. He said, "Keep worshipping." You haven't seen the face, right? No. So when you see the face, then you'll know whether it is this way or this way. At the moment, just worship the Padukas, and when you come there, then come back to me, then we'll discuss the matter. Is that sorted out? They said, yes. He said, okay. Alak Niranjan, chaliye. So, see, the main thing is to keep the mind pure. It doesn't matter. Shiva is not jealous that you are worshipping Narayana. And Narayana is not jealous that you are worshipping Shiva. And if you do one, hold on to one. You don't have to do. You see, there's a story. Somebody fell from a tree. Very tall tree. First thing that occurred to his mind when he started falling, "Shiva, Shiva," he said. So Shiva thought, this guy is falling, let us. When he came a little bit down, he said, "Narayana, not so, Narayana." Narayana said, "My God, let's help him." 2 inches down, he started saying, "Ganeshaya Namaha." So Ganapati said, "Let's catch him." And then he came almost down, he said, "Dum, Dum Durgaya Namaha." Finally, each one thought the other is going to help. He landed on the earth and broke his nose. So, if you have one, stick to it, no harm. Because the other is not jealous of you. You know what I mean? I even tell people, if you have Jesus, stick. No problem. Shiva is not jealous of him, nor is he jealous of Shiva. Five minutes, yes. My timekeeper is here.
Pranam, sir. So we're studying the Upanishads today, and you told us about these different systems of thought. But my question is this itself not a form of conditioning? And is it possible to approach, like you said there is a Brahman, and earlier we said there is a self, but is it possible that a sadhaka just focus on making the mind tranquil and then find out?
Of course, certainly. Before the Upanishads came, how did the rishis figure it out? There was no Upanishad to depend on. What they found out then came in the Upanishad, right? So you're free to find out, but you're largely on uncharted territory. It's a good idea to see what people did before so that you don't fall into the pit. That will help you to kind of negotiate the turns and the twists. That function is there. Plus, if you are yourself capable of doing it, very few people are actually, then there is no harm. Nobody bans you or bars you from going on your journey. But if the journey, if it can be completed in this life, which is so small, maybe it will stretch many lives to complete the journey, if you believe in past lives. So, keeping all this in mind, people like to follow a certain teaching which has come from people who profess to have found it. That makes it a little more easier. But if you are brave enough and courageous enough, you can throw everything to the winds and discover it for yourself. There is no harm.
Thank you, sir. And we have the Guru's grace to, in case we go somewhere wrong.
Then what happened? I can't help you.
Sir, please don't say that.
This is funny. He says, I want to experiment on my own, I will do it. But if I go wrong, are you there? Well, if you keep in touch, I might help you. If you say, I don't want this, let me, yes.
I promise this will be the last question I ask.
That you ask, why? We're going to meet again.
I know, so please bear with me. One coming from darkness, simple darkness. The other one from deep, deep darkness. So first, I'll pose my question from just darkness. You have made me infamous.
Huh?
You have made me infamous.
You have what? Huh? What did you say?
People think that I know something.
Oh, okay.
They want to hear stories about you.
Oh,
so can I make up stories?
Don't make up stories.
So the popular
Don't make up
demand...
stories, only tell me real stories. You can tell them, share them, real stories, but not make up. That's not
Just
nice.
wanted to clear up the air here.
That's not right.
So,
do you remember how some of your colleagues went in the night and broke the water pot in front of the principal's room?
oh, I'm sure they did all sorts of things. See, I was the good boy. I never broke laws, and I missed out. You know? So, by popular demand, okay, following up on yesterday's question, when are you going to take the book away and just give us some direct experience of the Brahman? Okay, so that's coming from the darkness. Okay, and the deep darkness is how about Buddha? It seems to me he was like the original commentator on the Upanishads. And no, okay, so I'm totally know nothing. So please, how about Buddha and the Upanishads, and what did Shankaracharya say?
I got it. He was not the original commentator on the Upanishad. That I don't agree with. But what happened, I think personally, with the Buddha, was that he discovered something by himself without going through the textbooks which were available at that time. So, this was a time when the Sanskrit language was guarded heavily and not given to everybody to read, including the Vedas. So when Buddha himself, being a sensitive person, perhaps born many lives before he came to this life as Siddhartha Gautama, when he saw old age and death around him, he was a prince and said, this is an impermanency of life. How do we find what is beyond this? He was actually pursuing the Upanishadic direction, thought. He may not have read the Upanishads, but he was pursuing it in his own way, and he discovered something. So that way is an original thinker, but that doesn't mean it has already been discussed in the Upanishads. Because Upanishads are there even before the time of the Buddha, historically. That is one side. The other is that when Adi Shankara went and taught his Vedanta, which included the Upanishads, in Varanasi, which was then the center of all teachings. People used to come from all over the world to Varanasi. So when he taught his Advaita Vedanta in Varanasi, Buddhists already existed. He was post-Buddhist. He was not pre-Buddhist. The Orthodox community, the Orthodox priests and the Orthodox Hindus of Banaras were against Shankara. Not only were they against Shankara, they branded him a Prajna Bhautika, a Buddhist in disguise. Because they said he's come to destroy your religion. He's not, so he's a Buddhist in disguise. Which means what? That the teachings of the Upanishad, which he was promulgating, were quite close to the Buddhist teachings. So therefore they said he's a Buddhist in disguise. Okay. The earliest known Vedantic commentary that we have in existence is by Gaudapada, who wrote the commentary on the Mandokya Upanishad, who is much before Shankara. Many people thought that Gaudapada, because in Badrinath there were also Buddhist monks at that time, that Gaudapada was a Buddhist, because his Vedanta came very close to the Buddhist teachings, very close. So, the main difference in the Buddhist teachings is that the Buddhists believe that when the mind becomes tranquil, it disappears. There is no mind at all. But the Advaita Vedantins believe that the mind may disappear, but the Atman is there as the self. In Buddhism, it is called the Anatma principle. There is no individual at all. Everything is gone. But in Vedanta, everything is gone except the Brahman. The nirvana of the Buddhists is freedom from desire, totally. The Buddhists say when that happens, nothing exists. So it is a nothing philosophy. So they use the word shunya, the ultimate. The Buddhists, the Vedantins, especially of the Shankara order, they use the word Purna. The distinction is between these two definitions, Purna and Shunya. The funny thing is, this Purna is very close to Shunya. Very, very close to Shunya. But it is Purna, it's not nothing. Shankara accepts even that nothing, but he says it is not nothing, but no thing. Not a thing that can be defined or found by the senses, but it is. The Buddhist says everything is gone. That is the major difference.
What's the difference between rebirth and reincarnation? They make a big
Rebirth, from the point of view of the Hindu system of thought, rebirth is that everybody is reborn. Over and over again, till they go, when they leave the body with no desires whatsoever, then they are not reborn. The circle of rebirth is broken. Moksha, freedom from the circle of coming and going, is what it's called. What is the concept you are? Reincarnation. Now, wait a minute, yes. So rebirth is common to all, except for those who have attained moksha, they don't have to be reborn, because there are no desires left to be satisfied. Reincarnation is when one developed being, spiritually developed being, who doesn't have to come back because he has no desires left, decides to come back to help others. This would be called reincarnation. The other, and this is deliberate, that is automatic, which means you leave, you have no desires, you don't come back, finished. But then that rebirth happens to everybody. Everybody is reborn again and again. Reincarnation is when someone has attained a level where he does not have to be reborn or fall in the circle of rebirth, birth and death. Still decides, knowing well the dangers of coming here, I don't mind, let me go and at least get one person back into where I am. That is called reincarnation. Now in the Buddhist philosophy, it's distinguished by two terms, Arahant and Bodhisattva. In the earlier Buddhism, which is the pure unalloyed form of Sutrayana Buddhism, they call it Hinayana, I don't like that word, Sutrayana. There is no such concept. Everybody goes into nirvana and the Arhat is finished and is in nirvana. In the Vajrayana of Tibet, the concept is that the Arhat, after having discovered his freedom, says, now this is wonderful and there are so many people suffering. Why not I go back and bring somebody with me, at least one person? Now, deliberately coming back is reincarnation. And such people they call bodhisattvas, as distinct from the arahants, who do not want to do anything. So there is a small difference between the bodhisattva and arahant, and that difference is compassion. There's no need, but I will. Moksha is over. Why would they have any desire to attain moksha? They have experienced it already. Remember that, theoretically. Okay, that's it.